Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're over on the YouTube account and we are looking at the Lightbearer faction. We're going to do the breakdown with Rakuday's guide. Now this is the third guide that he had made. I'll put a link down below. But overall, guys, we have some really strong heroes within the Lightbearer faction. And we have some within the Lightbearer faction that do absolutely nothing. As you can see, I do have Rigby, I have Oscar, I have Walker, all at level 1. Really no utility whatsoever. But let's go ahead and check out the guide. All right, guys, so here it is again. Big shout out to Rakudai, the Lightbearer's recommended investment guide. We kick it off with the Awakened version of Belinda. Absolutely top tier, guys. You can see the plus 30, the 9 of 9 in the E30, even very good on E67. When you look at the engraving guide, we did the E67 on her really does amplify the damage, which is the reason why we want to see her. Now, overall, even at a lower build, if you have her at Legendary, if you have one copy, the Awakened version of Belinda does fundamentally work pretty well. We've actually seen her run a lot of times, even at a lower level within the Temporal Rift, even maximizing the damage in some of the Cursed Realm, Twisted Realm comps, even at a lower level, again, works very, very well. She is the absolute #1 priority Awakened hero that we have as of today. She is the one you want to build. She is the priority, followed by the Awakened version of Solus, and then kind of so on and so forth down from there. But the Awakened version of Belinda is by far the #1 priority when it comes to the hero. Utility wise, used in every aspect of AFK Arena. The Twisted Realm, the Cursed Realm, Nightmare Corridor, Treasure Scramble, even looking at the PvP aspect, looking at the Temporal Rift, looking at campaign formations. She is used everywhere, literally everywhere, guys. We are seeing the Awakened version of Belinda. Now, the Awakened version of Thane, of course, the second Awakened hero we have within this faction. Still top tier. You can see the plus 30 signature item, the 9 of 9 and the E60. By design, the Awakened heroes do not have all of their abilities if you do not have them built out to the 30960. So having them built out is very important. Now, the Awakened version of Thane still present in some of the Cursed Realm comps and also the Treasure Scramble, the PvP aspects. Still a very, very strong hero in formations. We do see him every now and then in the Nightmare Corridor, but it seems like he is a little bit further down the tier list. Then we see the Awakened version of Belinda, which of course is again kind of by design. He is now a older hero that we've kind of seen. He was, I believe, the third one that we've seen released. Behind the Awakened version of Talene and the Awakened version of Aziz was the Awakened version of Thane. Overall, again, he is going a little bit further down the tier list. Then we get to the original version of Belinda. At this point, guys, there's not really any reason to build her. You can see bad, average with the furniture, and then even the E60 engraving is just average. Tier list wise, she's probably a D tier hero. A lot of players do still run her within the Lightbearer Tower just as a buffer for another hero. So unfortunately, not even having a spot in there as far as damage. The power creep, she is so far down the list when it comes to damage. But overall, guys, short of the tower, probably not going to see much utility. Now, looking at Cecilia, the 9 of 9 is good, the E60 is good, but that is a pretty high investment for a hero that just relative strength is kind of average. She does see a little bit within the hunting fields. We do see a little bit of utility with her within the Abyssal Expedition. If you're running the Ranger specifically, in the tower, she is still run a little bit, but when it comes to the major game modes that offer rewards, she is not really run in any of them anymore. She used to be prevalent in the Burning Brood, a couple other ones, but as of now, guys, not really used very many places. Now, Ullard falls into the bad category. Unfortunately, he's a hero that is kind of crossover, and they do this very often when it comes to these heroes, is they make a mage and they don't do all-out damage like they did with Belinda. They do kind of a buffer, kind of a protection, kind of a mage, kind of a support, and this is kind of what we get. So once upon a time, he was pretty decent again because we had a lot less heroes at that point. But when it comes to utility overall, guys, Ullard, again, short of the tower, is not really being used anywhere. He used to be okay, but again, with single target immunity, again, it is kind of a one-off niche possibly, but if you don't have him already built, there's no reason to build him up at this point. Now, looking at Estrilda, she is still good. Now, the reason is she is very, very strong when it comes to buffing. That is the reason why a lot of players still do use Estrilda. Unfortunately, some of her Team comps have been replaced by Vathiel. Vathiel kind of does similar to buffing what Estrilda does. Also, we have seen the introduction of Joan of Arc. Joan does kind of the similar thing that Estrilda does, but relatively strength, still pretty good. Still a very solid buffer when it comes to the tower. Still utilized in some of the Cursed Realm, the Abyssal Expedition, again, which makes her a good hero to have, just because overall the faction doesn't have a lot of really solid buffers, especially when it comes to just the straight attack buff. I know we have a few energy-wise, things of that nature, but she is still good in the tower itself. Then we have Folks. Again, relative strength is bad. Signature item, furniture, not really a reason at all to build Folks. Again, the only reason why I ever see him is utilization, probably as fodder within the Lightbearer tower. So again, not a lot of utility within this hero. All right, the second one we get into is Gwen. Now, Gwen overall relative strength is bad. She used to do a lot of damage. Now at this point, guys, the damage is not there. But you can see the original build was actually a 20330 was the original build. The plus 30, the 9 of 9, and the E60. Not very good on her at all. Which again, short of utilization within the tower, there's not really a place for her. She worked a little bit when we had Joker released just because of the crowd control aspect. But at this point, not really a need to build Gwen. Now looking at Hendrick, relative strength good. Now the big reason for this is within this faction, not only do we have a lack of tanks and really survivability tanks, he has a couple of one-off, utility items with him providing immunity. Now a lot of players will run Hendrick with Scarlet. We see Hendrick with the awakened version of Belinda in the towers. We also see Hendrick with the awakened version of Thane. Again, providing not only the damage mitigation factor, but also the immunity if the target does take fatal damage. So again, relative strength good. Doesn't need to be built out that much. I believe it is the 3 of 9 furniture, which is actually pretty decent. But overall, again, not a lot of utility to build out Hendrick. Really just used at this point. Don't see him as much in PvP as much, but still used within the tower. Now, Lucius, of course, he is a old hero, guys. You can see bad and very bad kind of across the board. Even early game, he works a little bit early game. When you start getting into mid game or a little bit later, the healing, shielding, he's kind of a crossover tank. Where he doesn't quite have the damage mitigation things like Hendrick does, but he does have a shielding and immunity, or excuse me, a shielding and a healing, which a lot of other tanks, but that makes him kind of a cross between a tank and again a support hero, which doesn't come out too well. Now looking at Morrow, he is still pretty average. Big thing with Morrow, guys, is Morrow does provide crowd control. That is really one of the big things. He does pretty decent damage, but the crowd control overall with this hero is vital when it comes to the tower. Other game modes he is not used any longer, but when it comes to the Lightbearer tower specifically, the crowd control he brings will make the difference between really winning and losing battles, because he does have, again, a considerable amount of that crowd control within there. Now, looking at Oscar, very bad. He is a hero that never found a place on the Lightbearer account. I have him built out, unfortunately, even within the Abyssal Expedition, stacking relics behind him. Not effective, really very much at all, which kind of sucks. But I wouldn't invest in the hero. I wouldn't build him. Even I have him at level 1. Now looking at Palmer, Palmer is an absolute required top tier hero to build, guys. You can see top tier, top tier, top tier in all 3 of those aspects. Now he grants crit damage amplification and crit damage. He does increasing energy, healing, damage reduction. He's honestly an absolute kind of crazy buffer that is used in formations, guys. Pretty much anyone that you're running the awakened version of Belinda, if you're running Scarlet, there are so many different game modes that he is being run in, and he is a priority best in slot in pretty much every single tier, every single game mode. You are going to find a place to actually run Palmer. Now looking at Peggy, Peggy again falls into the bad category. You could find a little bit of utility with her within the Lightbearer tower, but that's really it. And if you do build her out, plus 20 signature item, I build on all the heroes just for the simple fact that it is relatively cheap. If you're building her any higher, she doesn't have the immunity. Her guards do not have the immunity or really the damage mitigation, Once you start getting into higher level deficiencies, Peggy just gets run over. Now, Rain has had the resurgence with the awakened version of Belinda. So she is a buffer with that plus 20 signature item, the 3 of 9 furniture. So the plus 20 gives a buffing aspect to the hero with the highest attack rating, which of course is the awakened version of Belinda. The 3 of 9 puts a damage amplification factor on a hero, which is huge because of course Belinda puts out a crazy amount of damage, and then Rain in there not only gives more energy but also provides as a buffer for the damage dealer to maximize the damage. All right, guys, and then the final page of this guide, we have Rigby. If you fought him within the Temporal Rift, that is the only place you'll see the utility within Rigby, as if you fight him. And unfortunately, utilizing him even within the tower, I have him at level 1. I do not use him whatsoever. There is no reason. You can see even bad to very bad pretty much across the board when building out Rigby. Now, looking at Rosaline, Rosaline is very good. You can see the plus 20 signature item. The plus 30 is good. Average on the engraving, average on the furniture. Overall, you can actually, Rosaline's abilities, skills and abilities actually pass onto the hero that she's following. So you can actually get really fast ults. We see her most commonly run with Mahira, but she is also a very big buffer when it comes to the awakened version of Belinda. Any hero that you need to ult and ult multiple times during a fight, Rosaline is the go-to because she transfers her energy to that hero, making her a very, very high utility hero. Now, looking at Rowan, again, Rowan falls into the very good category. When you start getting into multiple formations that you need not only energy regeneration, but you need healing and you need crowd control, Rowan is really the go-to. And the big thing with Rowan, guys, the plus 30 signature item is an absolute priority. The 3 of 9 furniture is decent. The E30 is not really required. So definitely average on the 3 of 9 furniture, but that's as far as you have to build him. We have a lot of heroes that require a 30960 or a lot more, mats that are put into them. He does not require it. A 303 is really all you need from Rowan. You can run him in whatever comps you want. He will work incredibly well. Still my favorite hero within AFK Arena. And of course he has his little duck right on his head. I still love Rowan, still has a lot of utility. He was the hero that carried me through a lot of early game. That is when I fell in love with Rowan. Looking at Scarlet, still top tier, guys. Still some of the best in slot. Damage dealer within AFK Arena. Top tier, good. You can even see right there, very good with an E60. I believe that's a 66 or a 68. But overall, Scarlet still does an incredible amount of damage. Paired in a couple different formations. We still see her in the Twisted Realm, the Cursed Realm, the Nightmare Corridor, a lot of different game modes, especially if you're a player that does not have all of the Awakened heroes built. Scarlet will fit the bill when it comes to the damage she puts out, and she actually puts out damage incredibly fast, which is really cool to see. She is the hero that replaced, of course, replaced Saurus when it came to the boss killer. Now she has been replaced with the awakened version of Belinda and a lot of those comps, but Scarlet still a lot of utility. And then Sonia fell into average. Now we did see Sonia run a lot with the awakened version of Thane when he came out. As of right now, guys, doesn't seem like being used as much. We're seeing a lot more of Tamaris with the buffing. We're seeing a lot more different kind of formations with the awakened version of Thane, where Sonia is not very present. However, when it comes to the Lightbearer Tower, when you start getting into multiple teams, absolutely a good hero to have to build, just because of the faction, just because of the utility. Definitely build her out, guys. You're going to use her for the Lightbearer Tower. Now, Thane, the original version of Thane, again, at this point, there'd be really no point building him. But overall, you do have to have a really strong build. The E60 on him is super important to really get the damage where you need it to. But again, with the heroes that continue to be released, there is not really a place for Thane to be built. And then we do have Walker down here, which falls into the very bad category, which ultimately not a super big build on Walker. There's no reason to build him at all. Arguably one of the absolute worst heroes in AFK Arena. Very bad all the way down the line. Now also, guys, I know this guide is a little bit earlier and we do have Guineas. Now, Guineas overall, guys, I would probably put I would say a little bit above average, but not top tier. So I'd probably put him in the very good category. We were actually seeing him run in a couple of Cursed Realm comps. We're actually seeing him run. I know he is still relatively new to AFK Arena, but overall, it seems like he doesn't require a huge build. Plus 30 engraving on him would work well. And then, of course, you want the survivability aspect, so you want that 309. So 309.30 on Gideus will work. And again, I would probably put him maybe in a good category. He's, of course, going to see use within the Lightbearer Tower with the mitigation, but also seeing, again, a little bit of play. So the good to the very good category for Gideus is exactly where I'd put him. So, all right, guys, so that'll do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.